Let's rock or roll. It's your choice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Marco, what's up, brother?
Man, it's going to be a fun next 24 hours with the information coming out of Montreal about who's healthy and who isn't.
Okay, so there's lots to get to here. First of all, thank you, as always, for being part of the live stream. You can keep this channel going strong as it's been by supporting our sponsors, and get ready for the Everything Pet Warehouse sale event at Gallery des Sources this weekend, May 2nd through the 4th. You can sign up now and enter our draw to win $200 to spend at Silver Paw Dog. And of course, we're having some fun with all our games at betonline.ag. Super easy to sign up, very safe and secure, and the quickest way to get your money out once you hit profitability. So let's get going here. I want to talk about Marco D'Amico's article at RG Media with David Reinbacker that was out earlier this morning. We'll talk about Reinbacker's health. We'll talk about Reinbacker's state of mind. But of course, in the day between games, the Montreal Canadiens getting set to play Game 5 at the U.S. Capitol tomorrow night at 7, a game you can listen to live on TSN 690. We'll get into, yes, Jesus, whether or not we do believe Montreal can come back Friday to play a Game 6, but injuries are front of mind. Yes, they are. We know the two teams have been collectively fined over $65,000 for their two games in Montreal, Friday and Sunday. Capitals and Canadiens each fined $25,000. Tom Wilson, Arbor Jacki, other casts and characters each fined varying amounts, $3,000 to $5,000. This in the aftermath, of course, what's happening with Sam Montembeault, what's happening with Alex Carrier. Marco, can you shed any light, any developments as it relates to two very important members of the Canadiens and two very important injuries to those guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to Samuel Montembeault, I mean, listen, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I would be very surprised if we see Samuel Montembeault back in this series, even if it were to go to Game 7. Yeah, okay. Listen, without revealing too much, the Canadiens will probably do that on their own, and you're already seeing some pseudo insider accounts on X try to take their shot at this, but basically Samuel Montembeault is having a little bit of difficulty walking up the stairs on Sunday. So it definitely looks like it's like muscle or hamstring related. Again, not Dr. Recchi, so I'm not going to diagnose visually, but what I will say is a player that has that kind of a difficulty when it comes to upward mobility, I would be shocked, honest to God, if he played. But then again, as I told my friends yesterday, absolutely shocked that Thompson played, considering how he went down in Game 3. But having seen Montembeault with my own eyes, I would be. It would take Wolverine-esque healing powers, I think. And you're going to see rumors that potentially torn a couple of muscles in his leg, hamstring injury. You're going to see all kinds of stuff. We know it's a lower body injury to one of his legs, and it's significantly hampering his ability to move. So take that into consideration. Yeah. I don't necessarily think we see Samuel Montembeault back.
I mean, would a good way to massage this message, would it be a healthy summer, and once the fall shows up September, Sam Montembeault should be good to go, or does this put a speed bump in his summer plans here at all?
I don't think it's that level of injury.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to here. That's
like if it was something that would impede his summer, he wouldn't be walking on it, right? Like,
gotcha. Fair.
That's kind of the thing, and you wouldn't be going upstairs, and it's not like that. You have that level of a leg injury, like you're especially if it's not bone but muscle related. You're not going to try to strain that.
Okay, good. Because I want to get into obviously what's going on here is, as JGH writes in, proud member of the show, you too can join the community for $2.99 a month and cancel at any time. You get early access to all our videos and priority replies in the comment section. And Marco and I will get back to our traditional kind of Monday through Friday diving deep on specific storylines. We just want to make sure we're here live during the Montreal Canadiens playoff run. Listen, our last live show maybe Thursday. To be determined. Hope it's not, obviously. Love to come at you live Friday, but we probably will anyway in a little bit of a postmortem, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. JGH makes this comment, and the belief is, I think the Habs can find another gear. And I've seen other comments in the early blushes of the live stream today about the Canadiens weren't good enough. Point final. Montreal wasn't good enough. Here, Costa. The bottom line: Montreal wasn't good enough last game. All respect, Costa. I would mildly disagree. I like the Canadiens game there, and 4 minutes of the third period, it all went kapooey. So, what do you make of that opinion, that point of view, that belief that there's another gear to be found from the Canadiens?
I agree. I disagree with your take that they were good enough to win that game. They were extremely opportunistic in the power plays that they were given and managed to convert. But in 5-on-5, they were being utterly dominated. Yeah, and I'm sorry, you're not going to win this series if you're getting dominated at 5-on-5.
But they have been the better 5-on-5 team in this series.
Right, but if we're talking about Sunday.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And so Sunday, they got dominated. Friday, they dominated the Capitals. And so when we talk about having another gear, I don't even think it's another gear. It's go back to what you were doing so well on that on Friday that you got away from on Sunday. And I think that's the key, right? What did the Canadiens do on Friday that the Capitals didn't allow them to do on Sunday? And that was relentless forechecking and clogging up the neutral zone. And so if you look at the way that the Washington Capitals entered the Montreal Canadiens zone, the way that they were shooting, it's, easy access to the high danger areas, and I think that writing them off is way too soon. No one is suggesting that, but I think a path to victory is very evident in what they need to do. They don't need to start playing the physical games that the Washington Capitals are doing. Believe you me, the league got enough flack for what happened in that game that you could bet the refs are going to be calling, either nothing or everything. So there's no point in getting into that game. And to me, it's about beating them on the ice. It's about frustrating them on the scoreboard, because as we saw in Game 3, the moment the Canadiens began to pull ahead, that's when they started taking silly penalties. And so to me, it goes to, I'll explain Mustafa's question in a sec, but to me, it goes to the idea that they need to own and control the puck flow in this game, and they did not do a good job of that. It almost felt like because Dolbesch was in nets, they were just kind of letting it come to them. One of the easiest ways for one to look at it would be the goal. The first goal from Washington that was scored, where Laine Hutson managed to get his man, but the other man on the other side couldn't come across to get the puck, nor did Dolbesch go and grab the puck. There should be, in a zone entry, one man on the player, one man ready to support the player. And that's how you play a tighter defense. The Canadiens spread themselves way too far in the offensive zone just so they can try to get the counterattack the other way. You got to play lower. You got to play more aggressive to the puck carrier on that team so that you can squeeze them out, box them out, extract the puck, go back the other way. And the same applies in the offensive zone. You have to, if you do a two-man back check, you have to have a center at the blue line ready, and the defensemen need to be active at the red line. And that's how it's going to work. The Canadiens got away from that. You noticed a couple of plays where that happened. So, I believe on the goal, there was the first Washington goal, I think, Caden Gooley went and crashed into the boards in the offensive zone and was completely out of position, leaving Laine Hutson to have to handle the business in the defensive zone with a Christian Dvorak that was coming in a little late for help. So, that's the kind of lack of structure that I'm talking about, where they need to get back to basics and they need to go back to what made them so effective.
I like this comment from Costa, because I've been thinking about this too, about where the Canadiens' mindset is at. And that's always a dangerous proposition. It's a pet peeve of mine in my own personal life. I despise when people assume they know what I'm thinking. So I try not to get in that space where, first of all, I've never sniffed the National Hockey League. I don't know what it's like to play in the NHL. I don't know what it's like to be a 1% athlete in any situation. But I can't help myself. What do you think about the chances that the Montreal Canadiens on that Sunday were kind of rattled psychologically about how it fell apart in 4 minutes after the Wilson hit, and then the goal that ensued right thereafter? Is Montreal experienced, mature enough to do what Costa wants them to do? And I think most of us are in that category. Play your own game. Don't worry about things you cannot control. You can control your output. What do you make of? Are they mature, ready for that type of approach tomorrow?
I thought they did a good job of that on game 3. I don't see why they can't do it in game 5.
Agreed.
So, to me, it's about capitalizing on your chances. One of the things that I was really disappointed about was the lack of shots.
Yeah, 18 for the game, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, to me, with Thompson coming back in, not knowing exactly where his health is, I would have peppered him from every direction.
Agreed.
Not looking for the top corner shots, not looking for the low percentage surprise shots on the far end. In fact, the goals that went in didn't come from the 0% shots. It came from going against the grain, Slavkovsky's goal, and the same thing when it came to Caulfield, one-timer. But again, when you have a player like Thompson who is injured, Caulfield did the right thing and going short side on the lateral move from Thompson. So I like how they're thinking about it, but they needed to do it way more. And I think that's the key, is that when you need to exact offense, the Canadiens are not willing to crash the net and shoot to get rebounds. They're not trying to get the dirty plays. They're still trying to make the regular season play. And I think that's the mindset, that's the change that needs to happen. The only line that's doing it right now is the Gallagher, Dvorak, Anderson line, because that's what they do. But every other line has to be crashing that net, has to be overloading Thompson, has to be in his face, has to make life difficult for him. They did not make life difficult for him in game 4. And I think if you get back to that, then it is what it is. There is no update on Alex Carrier, and you likely won't get one until tomorrow.
Yeah. As Marco mentioned off the top, if you're just joining us, by the way, Marco talking about the Sam Montembeault injury. It would be a pleasant surprise if the Canadiens were able to get Montembeault back in this series with Washington. Game 5 tomorrow at 7. Listen to it live on TSN 690. Montreal International Film Festival wonders about the Kirby Dach factor in this series. I mean, that's a tremendous question. I like the Dach angle because it's not like he had a good year. He was getting gobs of power play time and getting cherry minutes and good assignments and good line mates, potent line mates. And I mean, I like to be as optimistic. I love finding silver linings. International Film Festival, I love you. But I'm not so sure. And listen, I mean, it's just pure speculation. Who knows what Kirby Dach would have looked like come playoff time? He's just so big. He's such a big guy. I understand why people still have him kind of, what might become if he's healthy, I get it.
Yeah, I agree with the optimism. I disagree with where he was at physically. And I think that's the key here. He was having trouble keeping up from a physical perspective during the regular season in February. Right. So I don't think that this would have been an opportune time, just like it doesn't seem like it's an opportune time for Patrik Laine. Right. It's same concept, wear and tear on a guy that barely trained in the summer, that has a knee injury, whose knee injury seemingly did not properly heal. Hence why Kirby Dach had the second knee intervention before being shut down. Sure, he could have potentially added some toughness, but we saw Kirby Dach's toughness be used against him as well because he took so many random penalties. So again, could he have helped? Would he have been a better player to have in your lineup than a Kapanen or a Heineman? Potentially. Absolutely, I would say. But I don't think he would have been a difference maker. And not in the way that he was playing leading up to his injury.
That's fair. Let's bring Claire into the chat here. Thanks for the update, Claire. Thanks for the view. Much appreciated. On Patrik Laine skating in a regular jersey at practice. Game 5 again tomorrow from the U.S. Capitol at 7 live on TSN 690. We saw Patrik Laine. We showed you the footage after the Game 3 win. Clapping like this, like a chopping, slap chop style, chop, 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 chop. You heard anything on 92 at all?
I mean, unless you have a broken bone, and even then, you're always going to be in a regular jersey at this time of the year anyway, so I don't think that changes anything. He can skate. He can maneuver a puck. I don't know that his hand injury is going to help him when it comes to being accurate with that shot, but you could still get it off, because the hand he hurt, if I'm not mistaken, is his right hand. Is it not?
Yes.
Oh, no, it was his left hand.
Wasn't it like this? I thought it was this hand. I thought it was this hand.
I'd have to go back and look at it. I wasn't paying attention.
I could find it.
Yeah, but just, the idea then being he could still get shots off. He could still, he's still an above replacement player. Just, utilize him accordingly. And I think that's going to be the thing with Patrick Laine.
Right.
Does he draw back into the lineup, for a Heineman or a Kapanen or whatnot, potentially?
For Kapanen, right? Like,
well, then who plays center?
Can we agree that Kapanen is? I
don't want
to carve the guy up. There it is.
It's his right hand.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tough spot, man. It's a tough spot.
It is a tough spot. But when you factor in taking out Kapanen, the reason why Kapanen is there is because they bumped up Jake Evans to the second line. So then are you going to go back to the same setup you had before, where Patrick Laine was on the second line?
You're going to go back to Newhook down the middle, right? In the world in which, I guess, Oliver Kapanen, if they decide on Wednesday that they don't want to go with Kapanen, do they move 15 back down the middle? Like, he's looked better. Newhook's been better on the wing for me, but they got a lot of chairs. They got a lot of chairs to move around.
I don't think so. I don't think it impacts whatsoever. I think if they have to bring in Patrick Laine, they can't take out a center in this case. And if they do, you're going to find yourself in the same boat you were in game 1 and game 2.
Yeah. Like, this is going to sound harsh, but I personally wouldn't change. I wouldn't. If Patrick Laine says, listen, I'm 60%, I'm like, listen, Patrick, I would massage it. I need you at 75%. I'm more comfortable at 75%. Why don't you sit this one out? We're going to win tonight for you. Friday, we're going to be back in Montreal for game 6. Let's reassess. I mean, that's kind of how the speed, when the Canadians are good, they're flying. And I don't mean this as a disrespectful way. I want to say, I'm actually curious to see what Laine looks like after the summer, if he stays in Montreal, whatever. But
I think he needs a full summer of training.
Yes, sure. It looks, I think we all see it. It doesn't need to be said. That's Marco D'Amico. You can find him at M and D'Amico on all your favorite socials. What's interesting here too, and you can find it over at Marco's X account here, is the column that was put out today. And you can find it over at rg.org. And Marco wrote about it. The headline that reads here, every game I can play right now is a bonus for me. That's David Reinbacker as he continues to build towards full-time status in the National Hockey League. Marco, let's talk about what that experience was like. Obviously we encourage people to go read it and have your own takeaway from it. But it read well. And I'm optimistic about David. I like his mental approach to the game. I think that's what makes me positive, that he has the mental faculties to be calm in stormy conditions. What else can you say about your time with Reinbacker?
Yeah, well, I didn't. First of all, he wasn't wearing a knee brace, which was positive. Very positive. He looked fit. He looked ready. He looked, very committed to training. And I think one of the biggest things was just him talking about what he's learned this season. So there's obviously, like people will say it's a wasted year because he didn't play a lot. Sure, but he learned what it was like to be a pro, which in and of itself takes time. It's the psychological aspect of becoming an NHLer that a lot of people don't take into consideration when they evaluate talent. But then there's this surprise that he looks so good when he jumped onto the ice in the AHL, right? When he was playing, Pascal Vincent, Anthony Marcotte, who covers the announcing for BPM Sport, the official announcer for the Rocket. Everyone that I've spoken to, some pro scouts that I've pulled, everybody basically saying the same thing. It looks like he hasn't missed a day when he's on the ice. He just looks absolutely solid at both ends of the ice. And I think one of the things that, I really wanted to hone in on was, how comfortable he was physically, but also seeing a little bit more of that offensive transition game that fans didn't necessarily see when he was playing in Switzerland for Clotten. Well, you're seeing it way more now. You're seeing him, box players out, turn the puck around, start the breakout. And then when in the offensive zone, he's moving out there. He's moving with the puck. He's got a howitzer of a shot. In fact, with the way that the Canadians play right now, I would argue that he probably has the best shot in the organization, along with Logan Mailloux, because frankly, I think that's one of the weakest point of the Montreal Canadiens is they don't have a true shooting threat on the back end right now. And at least David Reinbacker looks like he's going to be able to provide that, which is a skill. But, enough couldn't be said about how much he's improved, how much he's willing to learn. And the coaching staff in Laval was just chanting his praises the whole time. The one thing I will say is I know there's a lot of anxiety in regards to his health. He told me that, or it was basically alluded to, that if the Laval Rocket were chasing a playoff spot as opposed to already having one bagged by a month before the end of the season, that he probably would have played that last 3 weeks that he was out. And the Canadiens used that luxury to just not take any chances, because the last game he played before coming back 2 weeks ago, he did tweak something in the same knee. No structural damage, but something that could have led here. It's something that could have led to an aggravation if he would have continued to play on it and would have been targeted for it. Whereas now they took the time, gave him some time to chill, and it looks like he's going to be 100% ready for the AHL playoffs, which start tomorrow at the exact same time that the Canadiens open against the Washington Capitals.
Jeffrey puts up the comment section agrees with Jeffrey's comparable. Reinbacker similar to Pietrangelo. What's your reaction to that? Here's another one. Reminds me of Seth Jones. Here's another one.
Yeah. I'm always iffy on comps like this. I think that if he plays, he's going to be more of a right-handed shot Jacob Slavin style. Someone that just plays elite defense, but can really help you in the transition, can really help you in generating secondary scoring and maintaining offensive zone pressure. It's someone you can play with basically anybody. And he has in Laval. They've played him with basically everybody. And they're expecting him to be the focal point. Like, I was talking to a couple of folks that said when he's on the ice right now at 19, he's the best defenseman on that team.
Right.
So without overhyping him, because that's not what I'm trying to do here, I feel like there's a lot of anxiety in regards to the pick, mainly because of who the Canadiens didn't pick, but also because of his injuries. The Canadiens really feel like with David Reinbacker, coming back and being able to play playoff games, that it's going to give him the necessary experience that he'll need to be ready for the NHL next year. With David Savard retiring, they want to see what David Reinbacker can do, because that will impact their decision-making for this summer.
Well, totally.
If they see that David Reinbacker develops and looks like he could hold down an NHL job next year, then the Canadiens will probably focus most, if not all, of their attention on getting a second-line center, even though they do need help on the right side of their defense.
How modern of an organization was this? This wasn't commonplace in previous regimes until the Hugo Gordon tandem changed things in Montreal. And I like this quote from your piece. It's up on your screen now. If you're listening on the audio portion, let me read the quote to you. It was for sure a good option for me to see everything what they talk about in those meetings with Marty and them, and learn about the strategy and different setups. That's Reinbacker's quote in the piece at rg.org, written by Marco D'Amico. And normally, like, we've been taught, and I've heard from former NHLers over the years tell me that when you're dealing with a significant injury, it's almost like you're still on the team, but you're not really on the team. You kind of want to stay out of the way. And so this obviously goes against convention that the Canadiens were comfortable bringing in, and they did it with Kirby Dach last year when he got hurt again. They're doing it with Reinbacker. They did it with Laine too. This is nothing but super positive, super sharp move by the organization. Like, doesn't it just expedite things, Marco? Like, it's obvious, right? It just hurries the process up when Reinbacker's ready, no?
Well, when he was healthy, he was able to slot into the system in Laval seamlessly.
Great point. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so like he knew exactly what was expected of him. You pick up on habits, pro habits. You pick up on preparation. You pick up on body maintenance. You pick up on so many like intricate, immeasurable things that at the end of the day, my 2 cents, if he could stay healthy, he's a Montreal Canadien next year. That's the way, seeing him, hearing people talk about him, like just hearing some of his defensive partners talk about him was pretty eye-opening, where they're like, listen, he may not be flashy like Laine, but if you ever end up putting him with Laine Hutson when he reaches maturity, then, the Canadiens have an elite top pair. And then you factor in the Canadiens have Caden Goulet on your second pair, and then you're really in the driver's seat. And so one of the things that I've said, and I've continued to say this for the last couple of months, is if David Reinbacker can prove that he can hang and he could stay healthy throughout that playoff run, then I think he makes the Montreal Canadiens next year. And then flip side to that, I think it also makes even more so. It also makes a guy like Mike Matheson more expendable, because then you can shift Goulet to the left, Carrier stays in his spot, and you can have somebody basically move to the right if need be. Right. And so it depends how you'll calibrate all that. But at the end of the day, for me, that's what the Canadiens' end goal is to balance out their defense pairings.
Let's put this up on the screen here for a second. You brought up some interesting names. So what you're looking at right now, and again, I try to be radio descriptive here. It's my career. It's what I do. I can't help myself. What you're looking at now on your screen is the fastest defenseman of this past season, broken down in 3 categories: sustained speed, miles per hour, most 18 miles per hour burst per 60 minutes, and then most 20 mile per hour burst per 60 minutes. And, people that pay attention to hockey, Marco, are aware of the who's who of NHL defensemen here. But I'm curious, Quinn Hughes, Slavin, and Laine Hutson, top sustained speed amongst defensemen in hockey, end of sentence. Those are the 3 most cardio-friendly guys in the game that can play at a high level for a sustained period of time, right? So Mike Matheson's is 19th on this list, okay? Sustained speed. When you go to plus 20 mile per hour bursts, Hutson and Matheson are tied for, 3.4 shifts at 20 miles per hour or more per 60, which means that's the benefit of age, is it not? Like Laine Hutson, younger than Matheson, as fast, as elusive, as quick, but age allows him to be there. I mean, this is just more data in my mind, how my eyes communicate to my brain, that Laine Hutson is already establishing himself as one of the elite defensemen in hockey in the early blushes of his career. I mean, what an impressive season. What else can we say about what 48 has done so far? There's not much.
Oh, they just announced the Norris candidates, right? Zach Werenski, Quinn Hughes, and Cale Makar.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, in my honest opinion, they may sway towards Cale Makar just because he's the only one of the 3 to have made the playoffs. But in my objective opinion, I think, with Makar scoring 30 goals, it might probably go to him. I would lean towards a guy like Werenski, however, based on what he did.
Interesting.
And if Quinn Hughes had a better cast of teammates and less drama around his team this year, he probably would have won it as well. So just 3 elite defensemen. But I guarantee you that when you look at that list and you look at the players that deserve nomination, if Laine Hutson isn't there in the top 5, top 6, top 7 of votes, like if I think he'll get 4th or 5th place votes from some journalists. I honestly believe it, and I think by next year he'll start. If he continues this progression, he could very much start poking into there. If things stay as the way they are, because I expect the Montreal Canadiens to be an even more offensive team next year with a full season of Ivan Demidov.
No doubt. And lots of comments, in on the live stream, just to give you an idea, right? A lot of this kind of stuff. What do you think's going to happen? What does Montreal need next season? And listen, we have a lot of time to get to that, and I promise you, we will dive very deep. Olympic level, we will dive deep into these topics coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, the only thing I'm going to tell everybody, and it's going to come back to that, is the Canadiens may be in a situation right now where they can only afford to trade for a 2C or a top 4 right shot defenseman. They may, the market will dictate. We don't know what the prices are going to be. But if I had to choose, especially with the asset acquisition cost of a Dobson, you only come across players like that once in a little bit. But
fair.
I think when you look at long term, I honestly feel like 2C remains the next step for them.
I agree with
because you don't know if Michael Hage is going to be a 2C or a winger or a 3C. Like it looks good, and he's probably going to get some help in Michigan. But to put all of your hope on him when he's still a little far away is different. A guy like Reinbacker was a 5th overall pick, already looks well above average for his age group in the Capitals level diving, of course.
Yeah, that's a great line. I wish I thought of it, Mark.
Like, it's very realistic to assume that a guy like David Reinbacker, had he not been injured this season, would have had NHL games this year. So he's far closer than a guy like Hages. So I would tend to go 2C, especially if you're looking at a guy like Dobson that will cost you, 3 premium assets at minimum just to acquire.
That's Marco D'Amico. You follow him at MN D'Amico. Lots coming in terms of some of the questions, and I wanted to get to this one, but as usual, I lost it because you guys just flood the chat all the time. And the question, I remember the question. I'd like to put it up on the screen. Unfortunately, I'm not that smart. How do you guys feel about defensemen lying down on the ice? Buddy said he hated it. Let me tell you something. I kind of like it. It's very effective. David Savard's very good at that. It reminds me of Hal Gill. You're shaking your head and you're wrong. Mike Matheson on his ass, chucking the puck out at 5-on-3. How many times did Mike Matheson break up a cross seam pass? Come on.
So again, the only difference
there it is. Found it.
To me. Yeah. So I hate it in the sense that you need to be good at it.
Yes.
That's why, it's a skill. If you're good at it, then do it. For all the hate that Mike Matheson gets for all his turnovers, and believe you me, some of it is that frustrating. When you look at the way that Mike Matheson executes a dive, he does it to perfection.
Yeah.
David Savard, and great career, fantastic defensive defenseman. The issue with David Savard, 90% of the time, it doesn't work every time. And the reason being is because he'll throw himself on the ice, but it's going to take him 10 seconds just to get back into position, and just waiting him out. And Capitals already know this. They've done it twice. Just waiting him out as he sprawls on the ground and just quickly saucering it over. They've done it in two consecutive games against Savard, where they just saucer it over, and Montembeault or Dobeš, thankfully, were properly hugging the post and covering the bottom of the net to stop the shot. But him lying down has not stopped Washington from taking advantage of him, because they know that his mobility is shot. And it's not like it's not like Matheson. Matheson throws himself on the ice and then jumps out like a bunny and is back on his feet. There's a difference there. Savard can't do that, and they take full advantage of it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I like the move. Let's talk about what we think the lineup is going to look like. And it's a tough question. I get it, because there's no information. Martin St. Louis is playing the game within the game. And so if all things were created equal, right? I wouldn't change a thing. Why do you think Jack-Eye got the edge over Jaden Struble on Friday night, Game 3? Let me take you back there. What
I don't think Jaden Struble had the strongest Game 2. I thought he played fine in Game 1, but in Game 2, it just looked like that Savard pairing wasn't going to work. And if that pairing was going to struggle, I don't necessarily think, and again, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't necessarily think that was necessarily Struble's fault. But if that pairing wasn't going to work, at least it had to bring something. And so they brought that physical edge, and that's why Jack-Eye came in. Now, granted, I didn't think that Jack-Eye had the greatest game in Game 3. I thought he had a good game. Outside of that penalty, which is, a questionable call in Game 4 against him, I wish the refs would have been more consistent, because that is a penalty, but it was a soft call considering what they weren't calling on the ice. Beyond that, I thought Jack-Eye played a really strong Game 4, and so that's kind of the problem. Well, Struble panics under pressure, so did Jack-Eye. The only difference is there was better puck support in Game 4 with Jack-Eye, and I feel like he was able to recover because of that. And so, there were a couple of mistakes, But again, it's how you repair those mistakes, right? Like you can cough up a puck, but then if you block the shot or you poke the puck away and you start to play the other way, all's forgiven and it's a net positive play. Struble did that in game 1, didn't do it in game 2, and then the Canadiens needed a change of tone in game 3. Do I think, again, and we're going to go back to this argument, do I think that having Arber Xhekaj in the lineup is stopping the Washington Capitals from taking shots at the Canadiens? No, it is not.
No,
but what it did do, it did add a physical element to their back end. So they're pushing them around a little bit more. They're making the Capitals think twice when they go in the corner. That I agree with. That is key. And so when Xhekaj is on the ice and Savard, knowing his lack of mobility, well, Xhekaj is allowed to go around and start punishing players as Savard covers the front of the net. And so I think that combo worked really well in game 4.
Game 5, Wednesday, 7 p.m., do or die for the Montreal Canadiens, obviously. And the comment filled with optimism with the chances in the Canadiens' favor here. I mean, what was the separation? Like, obviously, I think, we gave credit to the Washington Capitals for playing a sound road game on Sunday night, right?
Yeah, but they were
what was the difference?
Lucky.
But totally, and that's what it was. I guess that's ultimately, the spot you find yourself landing on, because what was the difference between Friday and Sunday, Marco? What was the difference between Friday and Sunday?
Samuel Montembeault. First and foremost, Samuel Montembeault. Secondly, the difference was in style. A lot of people were saying the Canadiens were the bullies. I don't think they were the bullies, but what they did is they controlled the pace of that game. They controlled the pace of that game from start to finish. They came out. Yeah, no, mad respect for David Savard.
I'm going to say this right away.
Mad respect for David Savard. But you have to point out that in a normal setting, if he wasn't retiring, the play is not sufficient enough for the amount of minutes that he's getting. Within context, that's why no one's coming after Savard, nor should they, because his body's already been through so much and he's injured. So he's not coming out of the lineup unless the injury just makes it so that he just can't go. So we'll immediately toss that to the side. There's not much we can do there. One thing I will say is when it comes to pacing, when it comes to looking at how the Canadiens attacked the offensive zone, there were maybe 3 players that I thought carried over the pacing from game 3 to game 4. Yeah. One, Juraj Slafkovsky, one Cole Caulfield, and one Ivan Demidov. Really brought the same pace. I liked what I saw from Josh Anderson, but I didn't see that same pace offensively. He was hitting stuff. He was physical. He was running after players. But let us all remember, like on the PK, he was a little bit less aggressive. And obviously he's not at practice today because of maintenance purposes. So he may also be carrying a little bit of an injury. So, I didn't necessarily see it from that line either. What I would definitely like to see, and a lot of people have brought it up, is I think Nick Suzuki has to go from being a decoy to being a difference maker. And I think, without being disrespectful, I mean, I feel like this guy put the Canadiens on his back to get them to this point, along with a couple of players. He's definitely tired. And I don't, especially with the double shifting and on the penalty, on the power play and stuff like that. But he's going to have to dig deep, in my opinion, and pull out one of those masterful performances. And one thing I will say, and this is something I've said, time and time again this season, is that when the Canadiens have their backs to the wall, when it is like an end of like an end game scenario, they all seem to jump out of that corner with a significant amount of bite. So my prediction, and I'm going to say it again tomorrow, but my prediction is the Montreal Canadiens are going to force a game 6.
And you can find the odds at betonline.ag. Here they are, as you can see, we scroll down to tomorrow. Washington minus 188 on the money line. Mm-hmm. The Canadiens plus 167. To make that understandable for the layman, perhaps people not the most comfortable with some of those numbers, minus 188 on the money line for the Washington Capitals implies about a 65% chance of winning this hockey game tomorrow, excuse me. That's kind of what that means. And we'll get into a couple of elimination games today. tonight. The Battle of Ontario and Carolina and New Jersey. The winner of the Washington-Montreal series will play the winner of the New Jersey-Carolina series. So right now, it's very much setting up for Carolina-Washington with both teams up 3-1 in their respective series. I want to get Marco's opinion on, will we see 1, 2, 0 teams eliminated after tonight? 4 games on the NHL docket. And while I have the rest of the NHL playoffs front of mind, I've been enjoying, and listen, I haven't been watching the late games. I'm not watching Edmonton, LA, not watching Vegas, Minnesota. Boy, oh boy, if we think the officiating is wonky, inconsistent, bad, blind, what the hell is going on in Florida? Holy shnikes. Hagel getting a forearm shiver to the face. The referee right around there. No call on the ice. Kucherov gets hacked, stick breaks in his hand, no penalty shot. It's a penalty. Like, let's be honest here, man. Like, the refereeing has been very inconsistent to very questionable across the series that I've been watching. Battle of Ontario tonight, the Battle of Florida going on yesterday. What's your take watching, these 2 series, Ontario and Florida? What'd you make of the Panthers' performance against Tampa? What a wild finish to that game last night.
Yeah, I almost felt like the Canadiens against the Capitals, right? That 2 minutes that changed the game,
man. Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult to predict. One thing coming out of that series is that we only hit players with the puck. Comment. I'm really loving it. Aaron Ekblad's forearm, unfortunately, poorly placed, poorly timed, very emotional. Yeah. Well, now confirmed that he'll be having a phone hearing with the Department of Player Safety. So we'll see what comes of it. I'm not.
You think he's going to get a game?
A phone hearing? Listen, it's the playoffs. A phone hearing for a slap on the wrist. I think DOPS has other things to review. My honest opinion. Face cross checks have been quote unquote legal since the beginning.
It's playoff hockey, baby.
I was about you think this is the first time that Brendan Gallagher got cross-checked in the face?
My God.
Do we need to remind everybody the cross-check that Corey Perry took in the face against the Vegas Golden Knights? Where the man is legitimately pissing blood.
Yeah.
And they still didn't call it?
Hockey, man.
Yeah. Don't. It's playoff hockey. And by playoff hockey, we mean refs are going to refs.
Yeah, listen, if your stick breaks or the puck goes over the glass, those are the penalties that are called in the NHL playoffs.
Brendan Gallagher destroyed a Washington Capitals defenseman's stick on Sunday. No penalty was called. And I mean destroyed, used it for hack wood. It was destroyed. No call.
Yeah.
And so this is why I say consistency, I can't. If Montreal forces a game, I wish I could do that, Costa. I personally can't. But
hey, Costa, buddy, I saved this. I have the ability to star comments that get saved. Costa, I have saved this comment for you. So let's get going. As Ace says, yeah, that's no makeup on Caulfield's chin. It reminded me when I was a kid. I used to love watching Rock'em Sock'em hockey videos on VHS cassette. My dad would get me for the holidays, and I always remember it was I think it was Chris Nyland or John Kordick in the penalty box, and the gloves were off and his hands were like this, and Cherry was like, "You don't get that from playing the piano, kids." That's kind of always stayed with me, shout out Don Cherry and the Great Coach's Corner. Yeah, no kidding, right? And ultimately, the Battle of Ontario here, let's put it back up for a second here. The Battle of Ontario with the Leafs at home. The Leafs record, brother, as you know, is terrible in closing out series. They're minus 161 to win this game.
They're 1-13 in their last 14 elimination games.
That's a fact. What do you? I think they're different this time around.
I don't think
I got to win it tonight. I got the Leafs winning tonight.
I don't think they're different, but I think they're going to win it tonight.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it.
It's the goalie to me. It's defensively they're better. Mitch Marner's having a series.
Stolarz is, when goalies get hot for the playoffs and you just ride them to the end. That's what Stolarz is doing right now. They're not even using Joseph Woll. They're going straight to Stolarz. So I think it is exactly what it will be. Henry, all I'm going to say, or Henny, all I'm going to say is, if the Canadiens are giving Washington this much trouble, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy when they eventually play, a Carolina Hurricanes or Florida Panthers or Toronto Maple Leafs down the line.
I love it, bro. I love we have Capital fans in the chat. They pop
up
sporadically.
I absolutely
love it. You know why? Because I don't watch Washington Capitals podcasts because I don't care what you have to say. So I know why you're here, because this is a real hockey market, brother. I get it. You come here for good hockey talk.
Yeah, but I mean, look, when you watch the Capitals and you see them play, like, they're probably getting protests back in the next game, right? Like, my issue is that
you think he's playing Wednesday?
Protests? I think he's playing Wednesday.
Yeah,
he had a full practice today with the Washington Capitals. He looks like he's ready.
Oh, great.
And well, I mean, listen, a player coming back from injury like that is not fully healthy.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to take advantage of that. It's up to you to outwork a guy that's been out for 3 weeks now? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So the way that I see it is the Canadiens just have to play their game. The Canadiens just have to be the aggressor, not necessarily, with their shoulders, but with the style of play. They could do both.
That's why I asked you earlier.
The other.
Yeah. That's why I asked you earlier, like, do they have it? Have you seen the signs, the makeup, that they're maturity? Because it's here. It's not talent. They're tough. They're fast. They're skilled. It's here. They got to be a little bit better. And I think they can get there. I don't know if they're there now. I always want your 2 cents.
I don't think it's the core's fault. I think.
Say that again.
What? I don't think it's the Montreal core's fault.
I agree. I agree.
Position. I think that they're only in this position because of the young core. So what I will say, and what is increasingly indicative of this, is that the rebuild still has some building to go, right? This wasn't a team that was meant to go the distance, but they're still taking it to a Washington Capitals that were built to go the distance. See what I'm saying? And I think that's the key. I personally don't think Ovi is going to lift another cup. My honest opinion. No disrespect.
So hold on. Can I say this? I agree with the take, but I want it. He's the greatest celebration of a Stanley Cup my eyes have ever seen.
Yeah, I know, but I don't care about how you celebrate with the cup. Like, I'm sorry. I want to see how you play to win the cup, right? And I think in 2019 he played great to win the cup.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 2017 he played great to win the cup.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, he's Lurch that can score.
Bro, he's a behemoth, this guy.
Him and his brother. His brother played in the OHL this year, and I think finished second in scoring at 116 points. Drafted as well by the Capitals.
A stupid question. Where's he from?
Protas? I believe.
Do you know where he's from? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, bro.
I believe Belarus.
Oh, he's Belarusian.
Yeah, he's Belarusian.
Kostitsin boys. Sergey and Andre. Yeah, you're right. Belarus, you got it, man. He's a 2001 birthday boy.
Yeah.
No, this guy's this guy's a beast, Marco.
Well, yeah, look at his brother. Also 6'6".
What's that?
His brother is also 6'6".
Yeah. Let me look at this guy. Somebody check this guy for steroids, man. No. Look at this guy's jaw. What the hell is this? Look at this guy's jaw.
Okay, what are we doing here?
Oh my God! Look at this guy. That guy's thick. Yeah, he's a problem, Marco.
I mean, that whole family is a problem.
His
brother is going to be Ilya is going to be just as much a problem. People were questioning that pick for the Washington Capitals, but the reason why the Washington Capitals are going to stay good, it kind of looks like you. Burn.
Not bad. I've been called worse. Carl Elsner, shout out.
Oh boy, it's true, man. That's true,
bro. I'm the doppelganger. I am the doppelganger for Carl Elsner.
Honest to God, I see 100%. It now, and I'm never gonna unsee it. I'm changing your name to Carl Elsner in my phone.
I got to put, and that's why I say on the radio, if you ever listen to me on TSN 690, I say he's the most handsome. Elsner? He's the most handsome defenseman in the history of the Montreal Canadiens. Let me see.
Oh, well.
What's that?
I said, "Oh well, I guess you don't sit in the stands with PK Subban."
PK Subban. See if I want to see if I could get a photo up for you here.
No, it's okay. I think we're good.
Are you sure? Are you really?
I remember what Carl Elsner looks like.
Oh, there he is. Oh my God, isn't he striking?
Yeah, it's definitely striking, guys. Someone needs to make a side-by-side meme that Carl Alsner's second career was
done.
in radio.
Yeah. It's been done. They've done a couple of fans on the radio side did it to me a couple of years ago when Alsner was winding down his career.
Your job, my honest opinion, your next job is to get him on the show just so we could have the two of you side by side talking.
Can you handle all that handsomeness on your screen? I don't know.
Listen. I could probably just like not look at the TV at the laptop as it happens. It's already half the time anyway, but like, yeah. I agree. If Alsner in protest had a baby, it would be Shaun Starr. That is absolutely.
I love it.
You were created in a lab, Shaun. This is how it happened.
I love it. Yuck, PK Subban. Oh my God. Listen, I was still on the side of the fence of the whole PK. I hated the deal for Shea Weber at the time. Even when Weber was here, I still liked PK Subban. But I wasn't a fan of PK's, at the sake of outraging some people, I wasn't a fan of PK at the Four Nations. I wasn't a fan of his kind of stance on what's going on in the U.S., the White House. That's where I was coming from. Just to answer that question, that's where I was coming from. So we got
nothing to do with him as a player.
Oh no, and what he did to the hospital and to the community, and he still goes to the hospital and still kisses babies and shakes hands and all those things. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And I know I'm going to piss people off with that. Stick to sports. Brr. So let's stick to sports. Let's talk about the elimination games today. What's your initial reaction to teams getting bounced tonight? How likely is this the end for the Sens? How likely is this the end for the New Jersey Devils tonight?
I think it's the end for the New Jersey Devils. If you look at their goaltending right now, unfortunately, Frederik Andersen got injured in their last game, and it's Kochetkov in nets. So
right.
You got to be careful. It's the same thing the Montreal Canadiens ran into, right? If Dobeš was a little bit more assertive, Canadiens could have probably walked away with a victory in that game. It's going to be the same thing with Kochetkov. He's got to have to be assertive because he's got the team in front of him to beat the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils at this point are like a wounded animal, and not in a good way, because already Jack Hughes wasn't in the series. Already Siegenthaler are not in the series, and now you have a bunch of injured players. I think the Devils are done. The Sens, I thought, were done on Saturday.
Agreed.
And then we're forced to OT, and then Sanderson won it for them. I don't think they're going to get lucky twice. And I think there's enough pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point to have to close the deal that if this gets to a game 6, then they're going to lose all of that momentum all over again, and the head games are going to start.
Agreed. I like Carolina -1.5 today. You're getting good odds at 104.
I think Carolina is going to close it.
I agree.
I think the Senators are going. At this point, I feel like the Leafs are just going to go throw everything at the Senators.
Yeah, and they just just the eye test to me. They look controlled. They don't look like the old version that they're prioritizing. Like, oh man, our perception is everyone thinks we're soft. Everyone thinks we're weak and we can't do this. Like, they look different this time around. And I've got faith.
There's no imposter syndrome. They traded for Brandon Carlo. They went and got Scott Laughton. Matthew Knees is playing out of this world and is just being extremely physical. So you have those guys. Right? Yeah. It's not like they were trying with that roster before they had any of those guys trying to play tough. Like Austin Matthews isn't trying to be a shit disturber or a tough guy anymore. He's just playing his game now.
Yep, totally. And we pointed this out as Claire again brings up the Spencer Martin angle, as Marco had mentioned earlier. So you got 4 games to choose from tonight. You can have some fun at betonline.ag with easy deposits and even easier cash out options and the best customer service in the business. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 right here on this channel. And we'll see if our predictions are right or not, and that will be game day. So Marco and I will dig real deep in on the Montreal Canadiens at Washington, trying to win on the road in the playoffs for the first time this year. And don't forget, go take a look at Marco's sit-down with David Reinbacker at rg.org. I will link the column that was out this morning into the video description of today's video once we are done. So you could just go there, hit the description, click on the link, and read more about David Reinbacker and how the Montreal Canadiens made this guy feel a little bit more confident. Good stuff there. Marco D'Amico, enjoy the rest of your day, and looking forward to being with you again tomorrow at 11 a.m. on game day as we set up Game 5 between Montreal and Washington live on TSN 690. Marco, thanks, brother.
Always a pleasure, guys. Looking forward to talk tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the comments today. And we appreciate it as always. Have a great day, everyone.